the last parts of the Inner Circle into the beginning of the Jericho Appreciation Society, that like the Inner Circle on TV, it was odd that sometimes you guys were together, sometimes you weren't, sometimes there was some of you, sometimes there was all of you. What was the kind of transition between deciding, right, we're going to end the Inner Circle completely and we're going to do the Jericho Appreciation Society?
Well, from like a romantic standpoint, I thought it would be really cool if the Inner Circle never broke up or never feuded with each other. You know, my idea was after the pay-per-view I had in Chicago with Max, where if I lost, I had to retire, well, the next night we would come out and we would go our separate ways as the Inner Circle. The only faction in wrestling history to never turn on each other. We just go our separate ways. Tony didn't want to do that, so we continued going. We did the thing with Dan Lambert and got through that and did the best we could, which was still fun. And then it was like, well, what do we do now? Like, we can't just keep, you can't just keep going out every time with 5 guys, and you got to worry about, what's going to finish the match going to be, make sure like it's hard. Like, and everybody looks at me to kind of orchestrate it. So I'm spinning like, 5 plates at a time. It's hard to do. So then I start a faction that has 7 people now. So now I got 7 plates to spin. But so anyways, that kind of was the idea. And then once again, let the story lead you. So I thought, well, I'd like to, same thing as I had with Cody and with Mox and with Orange and with Max. I want to work with Eddie Kingston. This guy is great. I'd never heard of him. It's a well-told story when Cody first brought him in. I thought it was Eddie Edwards that he was bringing in. I didn't know who Eddie Kingston was. Eddie Kingston, is that Eddie Edwards? It's like, no, it's Eddie Kingston. Which guy is that? Who is this? And so he walked in there, and I was just looking at him. I was like, God, this guy looks like a jobber. Like, who is this guy? And then I watched his match, and it was good, but then he did a promo, and I was like, holy shit, this guy's great. Where's this guy been for 25 years of my wrestling career? Why do I not know this guy? So I kind of watched his stuff, and I told him I said, you are going to be a huge babyface in this company. No, I'm not. I said, you're a babyface. Just trust me. So that's when I decided I wanted to work with him. We had a couple ideas. I got hurt. Then he got hurt. Then we're just trying to what do we do with the story now? Then he did this promo where he said the reason why Santana Ortiz never won the titles is because of Jericho. So, that's interesting. Let's have a little bit of animosity there. And then we had started this thing with 2.0 and Daniel Garcia where they beat me up. Then they beat Eddie Kingston up in a separate occasion. And then I go to the ring to get my revenge on those 3 guys as they happen to be in the ring beating up Eddie Kingston. I'm not down there to save Eddie. I'm down there to beat up the 3 guys that beat me up. Eddie takes umbrage to that. Umbrage, great word. And then we start a little bit of a feud. You can't win the big one, Eddie Kingston. And then finally he does win the big one against me, and then we become partners. That was the original, like I said, genius idea that I came up with. And a funny thing happened on the way to the races. Like I said, he got hurt, I got hurt. Then there's a Santana Ortiz thing where there's some dissension there. And those 3 guys started their careers together. And then Daniel Bryan starts talking about putting together his own faction. And he mentions Daniel Garcia. And I was like, well, that's a shame if he takes Danny with him and leaves 2.0 high and dry. Those 3 guys have been doing good. Like, they should be together. Maybe they should be together with me. Ooh, that's interesting. Santana Ortiz and Eddie Kingston, me, Matt, Jeff, and Danny. And I'll keep Jake because he's my heater. He's the original Inner Circle member. And Sammy split because he was the champion. He said, I'm going to do my own thing. So we've got a whole new thing here. This is great. And that's kind of how that all started. So I thought, well, and I came up with this whole idea. And I remember the name of the faction originally was going to be the Citadel. The Citadel. I like that name. Citadel. Wow. So I told Tony the whole thing, and he really liked it. And then when I said Citadel, he totally no-sold it. Didn't say a word. And as soon as he didn't say a word, I'm like, oh, the Citadel sucks. I hate it. I was like, nah, that's not good. And then I was looking at something about an art appreciation society. I got some email about, here's the Art Appreciation Society of Tampa, which is where I live. And I was like, the Appreciation Society. That's pretty fucking pompous. Like, the art. Who's going into the Art Appreciation Society? Who's attending these meetings? I'm thinking of a bunch of snotty guys with ascots and cigarette holders eating cheese. And I'm like, that's got a lot of pompousness to it. Jericho Appreciation Society. It's perfect. It's perfect. And I told Tony that, and he bid on that so hard. He loved it. He kept talking about the JS, the Jazz, the JS, Jericho Appreciation Society, So the last part of the story is we go to Bridgeport, Connecticut, and it's a face-to-face promo with Jericho and Eddie Kingston. And Eddie, he's unorthodox. I would never do a promo the way Eddie Kingston does. I would say that's just not the way to do it. For him, it works perfectly. And he comes down to the ring. He's like, I don't want to be here. This is pro wrestling. You want sports entertainment? Go down the street. Because Bridgeport, Connecticut is right down the street from Stamford, where WWE headquarters is. You want sports entertainment? Go down the street. And people start booing. They are booing. They do not like sports entertainment in AEW. Just the word, just the thought of sports entertainers causes them to boo. And I'm like, bing. I go backstage. I grab my phone. I text my copyright lawyer. Now, Gene Simmons told me face to face, always copyright everything. Any name you have, copyrighted. Always. Hey, Mike, is there a copyright on sports entertainers? He goes, I'll check. 20 minutes later, no. And I was like, you have got to be fucking kidding me. 30 years, they've never copyrighted it. Ever. Later that day, the new holder of the copyright for sports